What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Creative Kingdom Society. This is Jake Ballentine with Chuck Schofield, and we are excited to talk about the Behind the Attraction episode, all about the Disneyland Hotel. But first off, let's get started with talking about what we've consumed, what creativity we've consumed over the last week. So, Chuck, let's start with you.
Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for having me back. I'm excited to talk about the hotels. I think the name of the episode should have been Disneyland Hotels, plural.
Totally. Well,
Right?
just a couple. They didn't go into, I thought that they were going to go into like all of them afterwards. You know, they really only covered
Just a
three.
few. Yeah.
Yeah.
But still, it was more interesting than I thought it was going to be.
Yes.
And just this sort of overarching theme with some just reflective thoughts I had about both the content I consumed since we last recorded and this episode. It helped me realize I've always had a tremendous amount of respect and interest and excitement around themed space and the designers of that themed space, right? Meaning like the Imagineers who designed, I would know the names of the Imagineers who designed attractions, for example, right? Or designed theme parks, for example. That was my like number one attraction, to me of where my interest lied, right? But both through the content I consumed over the last week and this episode, it helped me have a greater appreciation for the entertainers or the designers or the operators behind themed entertainment and the operators of those establishments. And it was interesting because I never thought I would care about, in the episode about like someone who ran a hotel. Like,
Totally.
why?
Jack Rather. I was
Like,
like, I
who,
didn't know anything about this and I loved it.
or the guy that ran it for him, or his
Yeah.
wife, or the son, or why they sold it, or like the operations behind a hotel, or the way that a creative guy like that would try to make like change the hotel experience. That was fascinating. We'll get into that in a minute.
Yeah.
But of the content I consumed, I told you that I ordered the WDW News Today Golden Jamboree celebration.
Uh-huh.
It was just $20 for the whole weekend worth of events. It was a lot of content. I only consumed 2 or 3 of the sessions they had, but they had like 10 hours of content each day. It was like a big old thing. But a lot of it, most of it, related to not designers of themed space so much, but the designers behind the live entertainment. And I always sort of disrespectfully now thinking about it, thought about those live entertainers as sort of like great ambiance, great background noise, right?
Yeah.
But I never really fully appreciated the whole desire to like have that be the main attraction.
Yeah.
And so, for example, one of the guys was the guy behind taking Disney to Broadway, for example. His name was, oh shoot, I just had it pulled up. But he told a great story. Ron Logan, he's a Disney legend, told a great story about pitching the idea of taking Beauty and the Beast to Broadway. And he pitched the idea to Katzenberg, and he was like, no, we don't do that. We don't do Broadway. Disney does theme parks and movies and the Disney Channel. That's it. We don't do Broadway. And so then he pitched it to Michael Eisner, convinced him it was a good idea. And now look at Disney on Broadway, right? Like,
Oh, it's huge.
that's fascinating. That's a fascinating evolution of something that someone just thought, we're doing theme park shows. What if we just up the ante and the quality and the production and everything? I thought that was brilliant. A fascinating story.
Well, now they use, well, not now, but before everything going on today, they used to use, like the Theater at California Adventure as like a testing ground before they take it to Broadway. They would do that, and then they'd look at it, they do it. It's really amazing.
I think Aladdin evolved that way.
And I think Frozen is still in the works. I don't think it has happened, but
I think it came out.
It did. Okay. I don't follow Broadway enough to know.
Neither do I, because like that wasn't my thing. Like I didn't care, but like seeing these sorts of interviews helped me appreciate the design behind them more.
Totally.
But other sessions I saw was Disney legend Bill Sully Sullivan, who had a long, fascinating career. An Imagineer named Bob Allen, who I'd never heard of before. The guy behind.
I have mentioned what did Bob Allen do? Because I've heard that name from Disney History Institute. I don't remember in what context, but
there were actually two Bob Allens.
Okay.
One was an operations guy, and this guy, I don't know which one you might have heard. Probably.
Oh, did we hear Bob Allen in the episode where he's talking about the 50th? That episode just came out.
I think so.
Yeah, because that's where I heard the name.
But this Bob Allen, the Imagineer, was behind like Rock and Roller Coaster and a bunch of films for Tokyo and Epcot, parades, live entertainment. He told this cool story about setting up shop he told a really cool story about the collaborative nature of Imagineering in those days, where like he would just wander around and see what people were working on and be like, oh, I can contribute to that project, and try to like get on a project. And like that seemed like a cool workspace, like where they would and like him and one of his group of Imagineers took over the ranch house in the back of the ranch, and I think that's the same house they moved when they made Star Wars Land. But he talked about being able to work there, and like it's just interesting, weird, deep dive conversations with these people I'd never heard of before. They had a panel of a bunch of entertainers from Walt Disney World who like I never really thought like these people had worked there for 25 years or more, like in a variety of different roles in a variety of different live entertainment things, and helped me realize like, wow, like there's a lot more behind those than I had appreciated before.
Absolutely. And let me just take a second and say something there. When I went to Disney World this time last year in October, at that time, they were doing the cavalcades, but there was zero ambient live entertainment, none of it whatsoever. And I felt like it made a drastic difference. Even, going to Disneyland, let's see, no, they have more stuff going on now. And then the next time I went to Disney World as well, they have more stuff going on, but there was like nothing going on at that time. And it just didn't feel the same.
Yeah. And it was, as a fan of the Society of Adventurers and Explorers and Adventurers, a lot of the people on the panel there were part of the original cast of the Adventurers Club at Pleasure Island. And it was cool to hear them tell stories about that. And I knew I'd be interested in that because of that. But I was as interested in every other story they told about every other thing they had been involved in. So it was like putting my interest in check, sort of, I felt like. But and my appreciation for all them grew, which and there's still a bunch more I need to go watch from that, but it was a big, long event. But that and totally worth $20.
Was it all virtual or was it?
Well, no, they had people there.
They had people there.
And
okay.
they even had like live performances from a lot of the groups that were laid off during the pandemic. Like the purpose of it was like to celebrate the live entertainment of the last 50 years, but also help them make some money because they've been out of work for the pandemic and stuff. And a lot of them have since been hired back, but a lot of them are still off or were off for most of the pandemic.
Yeah, if they're off for a year and a half, they're going to be short on money, even if they're working again.
So it was a good cause. It was a good price. It was totally worth $20, but, and I'll finish the rest eventually, but it reminds me of another piece of content I consumed that I wanted to for sure plug in the same spirit. Not just because you're a musician. You just referred to Disney History Institute a second ago. Forgive me if this was yours and I'm stealing it.
No.
But he put out a few cool episodes about the 50th, but the most recent one was about the piano player. Did you hear that one? Oh, you just muted yourself or something.
Sorry, there we go. I was pulling up a video and I didn't want the audio to get in the way. But yes, I did. And that was fascinating listening.
It was so cool to hear, like the guy started there on day one and he came back for the 50th and played again. And like to hear, you know, he always presents history well, right? But then to hear the dude's story and everything else he did and to listen to him play and that's a cool moment. Like that's a reason to go to an anniversary, right? Like that's a special out of the norm sort of moment. Like,
yeah.
And good for that guy. And I'm sorry, I didn't write down his name, but I just thought that was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I loved that. I loved hearing that. I'm really interested in all of the stuff that you talked about. Is it possible to still get the recording for that? Can you still purchase it or?
Yeah. The $20 is good for this whole month. So like,
okay, cool. Yeah. And they just have it all. You just have it all in recordings and you can watch it.
Yeah. It's all from one site. I haven't figured out how to watch it except from the site itself, but
like they probably, I mean, they don't have it on an app or anything like that. I'm guessing. So I would probably just I'd probably just hook my computer up to the TV and then watch it that way.
Yeah.
Because then, you know, I don't want to watch it. I don't want to watch it on a phone or on a computer or whatever.
Well, I mean, there's not much to see. It's just talking people. It's more, I just listen to like a podcast anyway. You know?
Yeah. That makes sense. Well, in terms of me for content, you know, I was thinking like, what did I really consume? And mostly it was about all the 50th anniversary stuff, all the video. I'm not going to call out one because I watched 4 or 5 of them. The different, you know, all of the things about the celebration was fascinating. It was kind of jarring. I haven't seen a crowd like that in a very long time. I mean, it was huge. It was so crowded.
I felt like I had to wear a mask to just watch it.
Yeah, but it was fun to watch it and to see what was going on and what the 50th, you know, all that kind of stuff. I'm excited. I'm excited for those new shows. I watched the new shows. I'm excited to see them live. I don't think that a video ever does justice to a show. So I'm excited about that. But then also
when you say new shows, do you mean like the new fireworks?
We're about the fireworks show and then Harmonious. The Epcot show.
Yeah. I all of the hate online about both of them, even prior, lowered my expectations so much that I thoroughly enjoyed Harmonious. Like
I thought it was great.
Yeah, like I thought if that's how you're going to embed IP into the show, well done.
Yeah, I had no problem with it, and I'm excited to go and see it. I think that will be a lot of fun. So I think that was really cool. And then of course the 50th wasn't 50th anniversary, but the building of Disney World on Disney History Institute. For anyone who is a history buff, that episode is
Those two
really,
episodes.
really cool.
The
Yeah.
two
The two
episodes. Yeah,
episodes
yeah.
are really cool to listen to. And there's so much that you just get into and learn about. But as you were talking about the different entertainment that we often think about as secondary, I don't think we realize. Now, you were talking about the ambient entertainment, but I want to bring up something about a big show, about Phantasmic. So there was an episode of Yesterworld. This was a year ago. This is October 2020, about the history of Phantasmic. Did you ever watch it?
I don't remember if I've watched this episode, but I love Yesterworld.
Yeah, it's great. And he digs into it, but I don't remember it off the top of my head. But if I remember correctly, I think that the development of Phantasmic cost something like $400 million to do. Like, it was like building Splash Mountain. I mean, it was like building, it was in the hundreds.
That's like more than Splash Mountain. I don't remember numbers, but that's huge. I had no idea.
I could be wrong, because it was a while ago that I watched it, but like you were talking about it being like secondary and stuff, like you have to watch it, and forgive me, everyone watching, if I said those numbers wrong, but it was massive. But then here's another
More
thing
than
that
you would expect. That's your point. Yeah.
And then here's another thing too. I just looked up in terms of money. Now, this is exactly what this is written on this site, but here, let me find this again, of how much it costs when they run this 365 days a year. It costs $30,000. Each Phantasmic show costs a startling $30,000, which means for each night per year, Disney spends a total of $60,000 for the two Phantasmic shows. So every single night, when they run it, they don't run it twice every night, but I think at Disney World, they do run it twice every night. And I think this site is on that. But so that means that with 365 days, the show Phantasmic, it cost $21 million a year to run. That's what that show costs.
Now, that's fascinating, right? But it'd be interesting to break that down to labor, right? And then, like, what are the other costs? Like pyrotechnics, fuel for fire, electricity.
So, so we got 46
boats?
actors and dancers, 25 crew members, 6 cast members in charge of costumes, and 3 stage managers. So right there, that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
But then I think, okay, so pump 2,400 gallons of water into the air every minute, which is wild. So there's, doing stuff like that. I don't know about how much gas and how much explosions and how much fireworks and all that kind of stuff. I'm imagining that's a big part of it. That's a huge part of it, is all of that stuff going in. And then you look at how much money they put into building World of Color, but also there's no cast members. I'm sure there's crew members involved, but much lower amount of labor. It's more focusing on projections instead of focusing on explosions. Yeah, there's a couple moments where there's fire and that kind of thing, but it's not that. It's more focused on they made it. And I would imagine that the cost between the two is drastically different on night per night, running that show. And I think sometimes we think about the attractions as, the main attraction, but these, Phantasmics is running since the early 90s, and it still draws every night that, once it runs again, I mean, people are thrilled about that show. And not only that, you also look at the meal things that they do, the meals to get the special seating, which honestly makes a lot of sense for them.
That's the only way to do it.
Yeah, well, because they really don't. I'm glad they don't want to do the second gate inside of the park. Well, maybe they do now, because they're doing that with the lightning lane. So, or not, whatever it is. But for a long time, that was the idea, is let's not add a second gate And so doing the meals to get there is a good thing to do. But, you think about it, the people behind that, like the people who design the dancing, the people who design the fireworks, who design the shows, who design the projections, like there's so much that goes into that. And I don't think those things like shows get enough love. I
Yeah.
think that we focus on the rides, we focus on the movies, and the shows
space,
we just kind of,
the space.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
We don't think about the shows. So anyway, we could talk all day about that. Let's get into this episode about the Disneyland Hotel.
One more. I just want to plug one more.
Okay.
Worth plugging. Sorry, we're doing a lot of plugs and made up some arbitrary rule about only one. But there was a fantastic article in the Hollywood Reporter this week. Did you hear about this?
No.
Entitled Bob Iger's Long Goodbye. Okay. It says the subtitle or the blurb, 18 months into media's most consequential transition, Disney's respected ex-CEO lingers while successor Bob Chapek provokes anxiety as he moves aggressively to reshape the Magic Kingdom. This is by Kim Masters at the Hollywood Reporter, came out on October 6th. There's just one quote worth quoting here, and then we can move on.
I did. Yeah, I think you sent this to me, just the quote. So yeah, keep going. This is great.
Oh, I tagged you on Instagram. Here's the plug for our Instagram, Creative Kingdom Society on Instagram. I plugged Jake on a post.
It was WDW.
WDWNT did about this article, but I went and read the article, and here's one quote here from that Bob Iger said to a group, to the board. They had some board meeting in Hawaii, and this is just him and the board, right? He says, in a world and business that is awash with data, it is tempting to use data to answer all of our questions, including creative questions. I urge all of you not to do that.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's beautiful. I never thought of Iger as the creative and Chapek as the operations business side. But I always thought of them both as operations business side, right? But for him to acknowledge that and have that essentially be his last words to the board, and then Chapek turn around and just nope, we're a data company now.
Did he say that?
Oh yeah. Later, so Chapek says,
hey, this is funny. The Hollywood Reporter, I'm reading this. I think that they made a Freudian slip here.
How so?
Well, later it says sources who attended the meeting say Chapek did not make such, which is what it's supposed to say. It says sources who attended the meeting say Chapek did not make such a bold declaration, but it doesn't say bold. It says bald.
That was probably that's a funny slip, dude.
Yeah,
that is a funny slip. Did not make such a bald declaration. That's hilarious.
Yeah, that's a mistake.
Can I just pause and say I love technology that you were able to just look something up and we're hundreds of miles away and we're all looking at the same article.
Totally, it's incredible.
Anyway, I thought that was the whole article is worth looking up. It's much more nuanced than we should get into right now, but it was fascinating to see that concern and the response from both sides. But anyway, we got to jump into the hotels episode now, but totally worth looking up.
That's very cool. I'm definitely going to look that up. Once I read Bob Iger's autobiography, just love the guy, absolutely love the guy. I'm not saying every choice he ever made was perfect, but I really like that guy, and him saying this makes a lot of sense to me.
And I guess as a transition here and just to celebrate and reiterate the theme of this podcast or of this show, of this group, that what we're trying to do here is explore the creatives behind the creations, right?
Yeah.
And be as fascinated by them and their story as we are about their creation. And
Yes.
so like the more we get exposed to and learn about each one of these people, whether it's people we were initially attracted to and like the Tony Baxters or the Marty Sklar's or the John Henches or whatever your gateway drug is into this weird world of fandom, right? Whoever your gateway drug is, then you learn about all these other people's stories, whether it's through an autobiography or through an event or through a podcast or through some created piece of content or whatever. And you're much more fascinated, like these hotel people.
Totally. Like I didn't know, like, okay, here's the thing. When I watched this episode, my enthusiasm wasn't super high for it. I didn't think that this was going to be a really fascinating episode. I actually found this, for me personally, one of the most enjoyable because I didn't know any of this. This is stuff I didn't know anything about this stuff. The Disneyland Hotel from back in the days sounds amazing. I want to go there in the 80s because I've never stayed at the Disneyland Hotel, but I've been in there many times and gone to the restaurant and all that kind of stuff. 16 hotels or 16 restaurants and bars there. A marina there. Like,
I got a list: shopping, babysitting, liquor, pharmacy, sundries, camera shop, beauty salon, golf, dentist, doctor, pool, ping pong, radio station, trams, marina. Oh yeah, and a hotel.
Yeah.
What?
Where was all this stuff? Now, is it all where Downtown Disney is now? Is that what it was?
So think about they haven't changed the track of the monorail since.
Yeah.
So the monorail bar and the monorail station, like where it is now, and then everything between there and the hotel was the hotel.
So it was all a part of that hotel.
The movie theater, like the AMC and the ESPN zone and the Rainforest Cafe.
What about even that parking lot there? That the
parking lot too.
I wonder if that was a part of it. I don't really remember. I know I was there, but I don't remember Disneyland before Downtown Disney.
Yeah, it's interesting to try. Memories are weird, and I've been working on a family photo project. I never thought I stayed in the Disneyland Hotel, but I actually did as a toddler.
Yeah, because
and looking at those,
Grandpa took like everyone, but I wasn't born yet. Yeah. But Grandpa took all, his 4 kids and spouses and all of their little kids.
And I wasn't
alive yet.
I didn't realize that. Like, I thought that was because our family was a Disney family. Like, growing up, that's what I thought. But that's not why our grandfather took his family to the Disneyland Hotel.
Yeah.
He did it because it was the thing to do.
Yeah. Because it was awesome.
And I didn't know that was the thing to do until watching this episode.
Totally.
And I didn't know how this hotel like sort of revolutionized the hotel industry in making the first themed hotel, the first family hotel, the first hotel where kids were welcome, like a destination, a place where all the celebrities came. Like, I had no clue.
Yeah. Well, and also because you go to the Disneyland Hotel right now, I don't think it's that special. Like when you go to the Disneyland Hotel right now, I've attended multiple conferences there. Like I said, I've never stayed there before, but I've attended the conferences, gone to the restaurant, Goofy's Kitchen and that kind of thing. I always thought it's cool, but I didn't understand. Like, to me, it always felt like I wouldn't call it a huge themed hotel. It's just kind of a hotel that's at Disneyland. Like, to me, the premier hotel that's there now is the Grand Californian, not the Disneyland Hotel. But I didn't know all that stuff was there.
Yeah. I do have vague memories of the hotel before Downtown Disney.
Okay.
including a memory of the marina, thinking like, why the hell are there boats here? Like, and
What are these boats doing?
and a distinct memory of the arcade that was down in the middle of it. And I thought that that was just the coolest thing. Like my interest in like architecture and cool buildings is because of being exposed to creative and weird, cool buildings through Disney. Like,
Yeah.
like that, like whether it's an arcade in the middle of a marina like that, or whether it's, you know, the Epcot Center ball or anything in between, just like why? And like that all of this was like kind of it was Disney inspired, but it wasn't Disney.
Yeah. It was. Yeah.
It was Jack Rather, a
Yeah.
guy I never heard of before.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and it was just this other rich guy trying to mimic Disney, trying to complement Disney, trying to synergize with Disney, but really thoroughly doing his own thing.
Yeah.
It was fascinating.
It was his own thing. It was, he was trying to keep up, trying to be a part of it, trying to complement it, but it was his own thing. And like hearing that sounded, I mean, it was just fascinating going into all that stuff. And it sounded like a really cool place. Now I understand why the Disney company purchased it back. It makes total sense.
For sure.
Them purchasing those rights back because of, if it's not this family that has it, what's going to happen if Marriott buys it? What's going to happen if, you know, if Wyndham Travels buys it, who also owns like Best Western and stuff like that? You know, what's going to happen if those kind of things happen is we have no control. And the idea of them making Disneyland hotels all over the country just doesn't make a lot of sense for them. So I understand why they bought it back, and it's not like, didn't sound like the family even really wanted to keep it on. This was Jack's dream. This is what Jack was into. But what a cool little piece of history that I knew nothing about. I kind of felt like I at least knew like everything in Disney history from a surface level. Not that I know everything at a deep level, but I felt like I at least knew everything at a surface level. And I don't know anything about all this stuff.
I love the new. I always love hearing the new, especially when you feel like you have heard it all already. And you just are going to consume it again or more or deeper. But no, this was new. A lot of this was new, and that's rad.
Go
ahead.
I have a question about this because this is a new concept for me. Did I hear right that the monorail was only used by hotel guests? It was an exclusive to the hotel guests?
I wanted to look that up after. I didn't know. I want to look that up because
they use the word exclusive.
Yeah. Like, and I don't know if that's just sloppy script writing from these showrunners or if that was a thing. Like I did want to go and look that up, and I forgot
they did say that you could go to the hotel and experience all of those things, whether you were a guest or not. So my question was the hotel kind of like how today they do extra magic hour for if you're staying at the hotel, and back when there was Fast Pass at Disney World.
You know what I think it was, now that we're talking about it, I think it was at the beginning of the morning, the only people that could go enter the park through the monorail were hotel guests.
Oh, okay.
But that the rest of the day, anyone could. I think that's what it was, but I don't remember. But like the idea that you could start in Tomorrowland instead of at the front gate. Like,
yeah, I mean, I still do it. Like we do that all the time. Like when Caitlin and I go, we prefer, well, now there's only walking, but like what we would prefer to do is to walk to the monorail and then take the monorail into Tomorrowland, or walk to the Grand Californian and then go through that entrance into California Adventure,
right?
Because you just skip a lot.
But but to your point, I didn't realize that the first monorail didn't go to the hotel. I didn't realize that they built the monorail in the park, and then they were like, "Hey, let's send this over to the hotel." And then
so the first one was just an attraction going around
I didn't realize that either. And
I didn't realize. I didn't even catch that in the episode.
And then Jack Rather paid for half the cost of the beam because he knew that's a great idea. Like that synergy there. Like, and that it went to a 2.5 mile loop, and then they made the monorail lounge so people could go out and get a drink and then go back into the dry park, right? And then they had the helicopter service.
Yeah.
LAX. Like
how cool would that be to get a helicopter from LAX to Anaheim for $15? Yeah. And I know that $15 was different in that time. But just thinking about that in today's money, I'd be like, well, shoot, it would cost me $45 for an Uber.
Yeah, so. at least. But to your point about learning something new, and I talked to you about this on the phone the other day, and then we said, let's save it for the show. But I liked the fact that I learned something about U.S. history through this episode. Specifically, the one guy that talked about them wanting to design hotels in Florida that were themed after popular worldwide destination spots that most people couldn't afford to go to. And he said this line about, you got to remember, this is only 20 years after the golden age of travel.
Yes.
And then combine that with how the episode talked about how like kids don't stay in hotels in the 50s. People didn't stay in hotels. And like families didn't. They were just for businessmen. And then why would a businessman stay in a hotel in the middle of Anaheim, in the middle of nowhere with his family, or without his family, and then, we got to make it kid safe. And or the idea that this was the first hotel to be a themed experience hotel, all combine those three. I didn't appreciate that the Disneyland Hotel had that much of a change effect on the rest of, I took it for granted because my whole life, themed hotels, family hotels, travel, those are all normal my whole life. But the previous generation, that was new.
Yeah.
That was mind-blowing to me.
Yeah, totally. And as we were talking about this the other day, I want to touch on this because I think it's interesting, but I only knew about the hotels not being a big thing for families because of the Smithsonian, which, especially if you go to the American History Smithsonian, talk about a themed, beautiful themed entertainment. That place, Walt Disney would be very proud of what the specifically the dioramas and all these life-size things inside of the American History Smithsonian. And in the travel section of that, they have a big section with trains and cars and all that kind of stuff. They had an exhibit on the roadside hotel, the roadside attraction, the bed and breakfast, and on travel. And at the time, this was only in the 40s and 50s. Car travel was new. There weren't hotels in every town. They were really only hotels in big cities, and they were business hotels. But if you were driving across the country, even on Route 66, you're driving across the country on that first thing, you would have small little families saying, we're going to make a business out of this by allowing people to come and stay in our home. And then we're going to charge them to stay in our home. But staying in hotels was a very scary thing at the time because you had no idea who these people were. It could be the beginning of a horror film. There was no connection. Even like you drive, I feel completely safe going in an Uber because of the tracking that goes on with this. If this guy is a psychopath, well, he can only do it once because he's going to be found out. A taxi, anyone could have a yellow car and be a taxi. There's no record of it. But in that time, there was no reputable chains that were across the country. So many people would camp. Many people would do, they would base their travel on family members that they know, like where are family members? I know these people there. I know those people there. And so you would make the travel based on who you could stay with on that trip. And so the hotel just wasn't a normal thing. It wasn't across the country. It wasn't in every given city around the nation. So at that time, it sounds funny. It sounds funny when we think about inventions that in our mind just have always existed.
Yeah. Yeah. Just because it's been around our whole life.
Yeah.
Like what we think is normal, but what the hell is normal?
Yeah.
Like we're all just monkeys wearing clothes anyway. Like it's fascinating to watch like how common a themed hotel is, how common it like remember did you ever see that movie gosh, my kids used to call it the Gumball movie with Adam Sandler. It's a Disney movie.
I know what you're talking about.
Gosh, I feel stupid that I'm forgetting the name now. But it's the Adam Sandler movie with the.
Is it called Pixel?
No. It's
no. Okay, no, I know what you're talking about.
It was a Disney movie,
and it has like the cover has them with an umbrella, and there's all those gumballs
are falling down. Yeah. Okay, so they're running a hotel like that. Like they're competing to run a hotel, and like the bad guy in the movie, he tries to win this hotel. Who's going to succeed the owner of the hotel and take over.
Bedtime Stories.
Bedtime Stories. You're right. Bedtime Stories. I feel stupid. Thank you for having that pulled up. We got the internet at our fingertips. Thank you.
Yes.
But the theme of the movie is like, what's a better theme for a hotel, right? And like the bad guy that we don't want to win this competition has this big old like musical theater themed hotel, sort of a spoof on like bad themed hotels in Vegas or something. And then Adam Sandler's pitch was just like a hotel where it's fun to go up and down on the elevator. And I thought, who wrote this? What a lame theme. Like, what a lame, like as a kid who took it, just assumed, like took for granted themed hotels, who's going to win a themed hotel competition by theming a hotel after a hotel?
Yeah.
And making it fun to ride up and down on the elevator. Like what?
Yeah.
Like that won the themed hotel competition. But this movie was probably written and produced by people who understood and appreciated how revolutionary something like the Disneyland Hotel was. And I didn't get it until watching this episode. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And so I guess I had stayed there once as a child, but I have no memory of it. I've stayed at the Paradise Pier Hotel as an adult once, and the California Adventure, or the Grand Californian one. Yes. Have you stayed at those two?
Yeah, I actually haven't. I've spent time in both of them. I go to the Grand Californian almost every time I'm there. You know, last time we were there, we ate at the Storyteller Cafe. We went to that restaurant. And just, hung out in the lobby for, 30 minutes, but I haven't stayed there.
I haven't been to the Storytellers Cafe, but have you been to the Napa Rose, the more expensive restaurant?
I haven't.
I've only eaten in the restaurant part once because it's real expensive.
I wasn't aware that the other one was the more expensive one.
Oh, the Napa Rose.
It was because the one I was in was pretty
They're both
pricey.
expensive. They're both expensive, yeah. But the Napa Rose is like 5-star and
okay,
like fancy.
It's a 5-star kind of place.
And like they got a chef's table and all that stuff. But they have a lounge too. And I'm talking about pre-pandemic. I'm talking about a long time ago. They used to have my favorite menu item of anywhere, called an appetizer that was called the 7 Deadly Sins.
Oh.
And it had 2 little gourmet little pieces, so it's shareable, of 7 different things. And it was just like, and it's weird to think, I bring that up in the context of like, you haven't stayed there. I only stayed there once, but I've eaten at that lounge a dozen times at least. Now, why would someone care to go to some restaurant at some hotel, like out of the context of Disneyland? Like, would I ever go to a hotel lounge to eat some meal more than once if I wasn't staying there? Like, no. Would I go on a cheap date night like this episode talked about, like the Disneyland Hotel was a cheap date night.
Yeah.
Out of the context of Disneyland, would you go to some hotel to just like hang out if you weren't staying there? That's so weird. You know what I mean? Like, but like here it's normal.
I kind of have a different view on that, on the hanging out at places. Cause I used to, my full-time job was playing music in hotel lounges and, I played music in hotel lounges a lot for a couple years. And when I was in those places, especially in towns on the outskirts, so like for a while I was living up in Washington where my wife's family lived at the time. And I was going to all these small towns in Washington, I'd drive an hour or two, play there, come back. Or like there's this place called Lava Hot Springs in Idaho, and I used to play at this hotel lounge at Lava Hot Springs. I'd play there once a month, and then they'd put me up for the night and go home. But in these smaller towns, the restaurant at the hotel is the place to hang out.
That's fascinating. I like
most of the people there,
like that.
I'd see the same people every time. Yes, there were some people who were staying at the hotel, but in smaller communities,
wow,
it kind of, because it's the only place that can afford to have a nicer, like they can have a nicer hotel or nicer restaurant because they're dipping into two sources. It's not just the community. So the people who would come and hang out, there were community people more than the guests.
That's fascinating. No, I like being put in check like that too, because just because it would be weird for me to go to some random other non-Disney hotel because there's a million around me and there's a million other things to do and there's a million other places to eat, doesn't mean that in a small town like that is the thing to do. Like, yeah, to your point. Yeah, wow.
That's kind of it. Like that's where you go. That's what you do. That it's just kind of an interesting thing. Like here, like the restaurant that Caitlin and I go to often is right attached to a Marriott. I mean, it's in the same parking lot. And I think the Marriott either owns it or has a connection with them. And that's because like most of the other restaurants aren't as nice, and that it has a different feel. But to your point though, when you're talking about hanging out at a hotel, like I don't know hotels like that. I mean, I guess in Vegas you go and you do that.
Only other one.
Vegas is the place to do that. But it's so cool to think about that being a thing. Like to me, I mean, I hate to say this, but it sure sounds like hanging out at the Disneyland Hotel was a cooler place to hang out than downtown Disney.
Well, the one is just the evolution of the other. The one is building off of the other's success, just under different ownership, and it's kind of the same.
You're right, because it was a place you could go and hang out outside of the park,
right.
And so then they created this that they owned. But I just really fascinated by that whole thing of how many places were there. Oh, this was the other thing I wanted to say is like the idea that it first opened with only 7 rooms.
Mind blowing. Yeah.
And then they had 100 within like a month or two.
And then to watch it grow.
And then grow. And I don't know. I know they mentioned like 450 at one point. I don't know what it is now.
The tower and then the third.
Yeah. Like
third tower. Yeah.
Well,
and they're building another tower right now. They're building a fourth one right now.
Of the Disneyland Hotel.
Yeah.
What? Okay. This is something else that was fascinating.
And they didn't mention that, which was weird, but yeah.
It was fascinating to me that they built the tower with that elevator thing off to the left without thinking beforehand what it's going to, like there being a sign up there. It was like putting the sign up was an afterthought to the building, because it could have done the exact same thing, just had it askew to this side instead of to this side. I don't know. That was fascinating to me that like someone didn't draw this in concept art. Like they just like built it. They're like, we'll put up a sign afterwards.
I would love to hear more on that story, just out of curiosity, because like, was it an afterthought? Was it like, oh yeah, after you've designed this, after we built it, now let's put on a sign? Or was it a forethought? Like, let's actually intentionally do this backwards. Like what? Like, I don't know. That is curious though. That is curious.
Yeah.
But it's funny that your memories of Grand Californian are hanging out, eating. My memories of Disneyland Hotel include specifically going to Trader Sam's a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah.
And that's why I wore this shirt today. And that's why I'm drinking out of my Star Wars Tiki mug here. I don't have another one, but from this isn't from the Trader Sam's, but
Yeah.
the other one. But
It's from Cafe Star Wars Rio, or not Cafe. What was that place called?
oh,
Rainforest Star Wars Cafe.
No, yeah, but my other fondest memories from the Disneyland Hotel specifically were attending the Dapper Day Expo every year.
Oh yeah.
I've been to one or two other expos there. One for I think I went to like a baseball card show there when I was a kid, but like as an adult, I've been to several of those Dapper Day expos they have there, and that's always a fun time.
Yeah.
To be hanging out around the Disneyland Hotel and downtown and the parks.
Yeah, totally.
And I love the evolution of that how it was just an event and it evolved into a multi-year, a couple times a year event, and then the expo and all this. It's fun to see that grow, and the hotel and Disney work with them to allow and promote, or to the extent they do that. That's a cool piece of the fandom I thought was worth mentioning there too for the hotel.
Totally. And then they go in and talk about the hotels over at Disney World. I don't know why, but my mind never said the Contemporary is connected to Tomorrowland and the Polynesian is connected to Adventureland. Like, I don't know why. I never thought of those as extensions of those two lands.
Yeah, me neither. And I think I was thinking about why. Like, and I think the only reason is because by the time we were aware of anything, there were so many other hotels that weren't associated, that why would we think that those two were,
Yeah.
like, it, is the Grand Floridian part of New Orleans Square, which isn't in the Magic Kingdom? Like, I don't like,
I don't know why with it being the Floridian.
But it made me miss, like, what could that Persian hotel or Asian hotel or those other like world destination sort of spot hotels. I wish we had gotten a lot of those.
Yeah.
Now, Disney World had or has gotten a lot of other hotels that are cool, but then, like, why not those, like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, hotels, I mean, it's funny how Wing Chow, which has become one of my favorite people to listen to on all of these and on Imagineering Story. And I love what he's wearing in, like, cause he, like, in the Imagineering Story, he was wearing just like a regular suit. And now he's like embraced his culture and he's still wearing a sports jacket. Like, he's still wearing like a suit jacket, but he has that red shirt underneath. That's really cool. But he was talking about how we weren't a hotel company.
Yeah.
We weren't a hotel company, and it was good for our guests. But I would argue that Disney World is a hotel place that has a theme park there.
Yeah, I don't think he was saying we aren't. I think he was saying we weren't.
No, totally. That they weren't. Yeah. But they, like, because like Disney World is really about, like, the more days you stay, the cheaper the park tickets get, because they want you to stay in the hotels as many nights as possible, because that's where they're really making
money.
Significant money, is not just from the hotel night, but from all the restaurants and but the hotels there. I mean, those resorts, I've never done it, but every time I stay at a Disney World resort, I always say, next time, let's take a couple days and not go to the parks and just hang out at this resort, or hang out at this resort and then resort hop to that one. And that there's so much stuff to do at these places. I mean, it's incredible how much there is to do.
Well, you know that I'm planning a trip for next October.
Yes.
Disney World, big old family trip. I hope we're all there.
Yes.
And you, I don't remember if I told you, but of the 6 days we'll be there, I only bought a 5-day ticket because explicitly for this reason.
Okay.
Because I want that 6th day to be the resort hopper, the downtown Disney, the whole like, because there's that much that makes that worth it, you know. Like,
I mean, honestly, you could spend a whole week there without going to the parks. I like the parks so much, so I've never done that.
Yeah,
but there's so much to do.
Yeah.
With all the pools, and then like if you're into like golf and stuff like that, then there's a bunch more to do. I mean, I play golf on occasion, but I'm not like a golfer. But like
I don't need to golf. But just as a fan of the themed space. Yeah. I just like going to themed spaces. Like,
yeah, totally.
Yeah. And the other reason I wore this shirt wasn't just to remember Trader Sam's, but of which there's a second one at the Polynesian. But have you gone to the Polynesian at all? Do you know? Have you hung out there at all? Have you done
that's one I haven't been. I've been in the Contemporary, but I have
at least
not
rode through on the monorail. At least gone through it. But were you aware of what band broke up there?
Did the Beatles break up at the Polynesian?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I did know that.
I thought since you were a Beatles fan and you're a musician that we should at least plug that.
I think I did know that. Yeah, I think I did hear that.
One of those little niche-y little history things. And I was reminded this week by an Offhand Disney episode where he talks about this and the resort hopping and 2 little cool pieces of history. One is in 1974, John Lennon was staying at the Polynesian, and in some room there, I didn't write down the room number. It's like a little kitschy little piece of trivia that these vloggers like to promote when they're talking or bring up when they're talking about the Polynesian, that John Lennon signed the paperwork to dissolve the Beatles in 1974 in that room at the Polynesian. And so I thought that was worth bringing up. But another cool piece of history that he brought up in this episode, the Offhand Disney guy, was one that I always forget. I heard once a long time ago, but he reminded me, President Nixon's famous I am not a crook speech. I am not a crook.
Was it? Yeah.
Took place at the ballroom in the Contemporary.
Interesting.
In the Ballroom of the Americas or something like that. That's where he gave the I am not a crook speech. And so like, it's interesting to look. I don't know. That's an interesting question. Why?
Because like the John Lennon one, like he was on vacation.
Just on vacation.
He was
his lawyer brought him.
Okay, fine. Yeah, sure. I'll sign this thing. I don't care. We're already. This is just the formality, and we're on vacation and whatever. Okay, it's done.
There must have been like a Republican convention or something. I don't know. I don't know what was going on, but that is worth looking up. You're right. But it's just interesting to think like these aren't just buildings. There aren't just hotels at a theme park. But they're even places where things happen.
Well, when you got a convention center, I mean, that's a huge. So that's the other thing. Hotels really revolve around events. Like, so there's always an event when you're next to Disneyland. But if you're a hotel that has a space, their biggest business is doing events there so that people have a reason to come and stay at this place. And not only that, then they have the catering and they have all this other stuff. So like, these are big places that have a ton of stuff going on. So what hotels have you stayed at Disney World?
Oh yeah. I didn't make a comprehensive list, but I know as a child, I have a vivid memory of staying in a trailer in Fort Wilderness.
Oh, cool.
And we were glamping.
Yeah.
but I remember every morning waking up and having like tree frogs on the windows out, like looking out. And I thought that was really cool. And my parents rented a golf cart, to drive to the
Yeah.
bus stop. And, like that was a cool little Fort Wildernessy sort of experience. I remember as a kid staying in the tree houses, which weren't really tree houses. They were more like 2-story, like lofts.
Isn't that at Fort Wilderness as well?
I think I don't remember. Someone will correct us in the comments. I think it's where Saratoga Springs is now. I think they tore them down.
Okay.
But then they made like the Disney History Institute there, and that I think that got converted into Saratoga Springs. I've stayed there twice as an adult. But I think that's it. The Yacht and Beach Club I stayed at once. Other ones were like off property. I think every other time I've been there, we stayed off property.
Okay.
But I'm really excited because we've never stayed at any of the deluxe resorts, but our reservations for next year are at the Boardwalk. And I've always wanted to stay at the Boardwalk. It's right across from the Yacht and Beach Club, but both of those have that backdoor entrance to Epcot that like I've always, right by France,
Yeah.
And now that the gondolas
because you can just walk there?
Yeah.
Okay. Because the gondolas drop you off right there.
Those are like the only hotels with walkable where it's walkable to the park.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Well, I guess the Grand Floridian and the Contemporary, you could, I guess now too.
Yeah.
But like, that's great to be that damn close. They talk about staying in the Magic. I don't know how much closer you can stay in the Magic unless you're sleeping in the castle, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's super cool. So ones I've stayed at there, I've stayed at Coronado twice. And that's really cool too to see that now they have that big tall build. Like it was like I don't really know how they do it, but I think that now it is both a deluxe resort and the medium resort, because that big tower is this super fancy place now. So anyway, a little trivia, that's where the entire NBA stayed during the bubble.
Yeah, I remember the bubble.
Can't wait.
That's worth mentioning.
I can't wait for someone to write a book
about that. Yeah.
About the entire NBA staying in the same hotel and eating at the same restaurants.
Yeah.
Like they're playing each other tonight and they're eating breakfast together. Like what? Yeah. Like, so what they did, I kind of worked out perfect. They had the big tower is where all the players and like the team, like official team staff kind of thing stayed. But then they have all of it's a huge location. It's massive. And outside of it, there's all these little buildings that are kind of little bungalows. And I think in there is where media people stayed, news people, that's where trainers stayed. That's where all of the other people involved. So they had the fancy place where all of the players stayed. And then the rest of it was where everyone else stayed, but that's where the bubble was. I think that would be a very fascinating story to hear someday.
I look forward to the episode of some show on Disney Plus that talks about the bubble, or to some episode by Disney History Institute that goes all deep into it.
I know, exactly. Like it would be fascinating. And then Caribbean, stayed at the Caribbean, which was very fun. That was a really fun place, very highly themed. Like their pool is over the top cool. Like they have a lot of really cool stuff there. And then one that I stayed at that I thought wasn't going to be all that great because it was one of the value resorts, but the Art of Animation was awesome. Yeah. It was so cool, especially if you have kids. It was so cool being there, and it was so highly themed for stuff that my son cared about. Like he was so excited about it. Like you're walking around this stuff and it's like, they're huge. There's huge, giant, like the rock of Lion King, like that rock. And they have the characters up there and like all this stuff. And we're walking through this stuff and there's no one there. And it just, it was awesome. It was so cool. And all of the different sections, we've spent a couple hours just walking around, seeing all the different things. And it was a really cool thing. So I love those hotels. Like, I think they're so much fun. I've actually never stayed offsite in Florida going to Disney World. Part of me wants to, because I'm like, well, I can save some money and maybe it'll be a cool thing. And maybe, I don't know, I've thought about doing it, but every time we go, I just like, but the hotel is half the fun. Like, it's really nice.
Yeah, everything costs too much, and I'm not a wealthy man, and I can't enjoy all this stuff as much as I want to. But having said that, and I'm not trying to justify any greed of any corporation or anything like that. Disney prices are probably overpriced. That's not controversial to say that. But having said that, when we think about what's cheaper and what's not cheaper, if you're only thinking about money, then sure, it's probably cheaper to stay offsite. But if you're thinking about time and effort and logistics and rides and ease, then of course it's cheaper to stay on property. Come on, like are we acting like, oh, let's save $100 a night on the hotel to have to pay for parking at the hotel, drive it in, pay for parking at the park, and drive it out, and that hour it'll take in and out each day, and the gas and the rental car. Like, come on.
Totally.
For what?
Yeah.
Like, so I'm glad that at the very least Disney has like value results and where that have buses that are great, and like, but like my dream has always been to stay at a walkable one, like we're about to, or at the Contemporary. That has always been one day I'm going to stay at the Contemporary, even if it's stupid $800,000 a night, something crazy. Like I'm gonna stay there once, just because, like several of the people in this episode said, there's something magic about the monorail goes through the building. What?
Yeah, it goes right through the building, and Mary Blair's mural is so cool.
Yeah.
And it is more expensive, but if you can have the side that's looking into Magic Kingdom, if you can have that side, how cool would that be? I should have done it. When we went back in October, the travel agent shared what it would be like if we stayed there. And I don't remember the pricing, but like now looking back, it wasn't that much more, because at that time they were trying to get people in. They were like it probably was the cheapest I ever could have got it. And I didn't do it.
Yeah. One day.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, anything else you want to say on this episode?
One last parting thought was that it was fascinating to see how this hotel and immersive experience has influenced the entire industry.
Yeah.
So much so that not only do we have Vegas and other themed hotels at Universal parks that are all around the world now, but also now with the new innovation of Airbnb, now we're seeing people buy houses around these resorts and theme them and turn those into themed destination spots.
Yes.
Like Star Wars or Harry Potter or whatever.
Yeah.
Like that.
Like that Haunted Mansion one.
Like that. If you told someone in 1940, oh, one day someone's going to do this and rent it out to strangers, and what? Like what?
Yeah.
Like, just
I'm gonna buy a house, only for the purpose of decorating it like the Haunted Mansion at Disneyland, and then people are going to rent it out from me every night, and I'm gonna make a profit on it.
Sure, buddy. Sure. Yeah. Good luck.
And not to mention that it's a house that's close to Disneyland, so it's probably $1 million.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, good luck with that. Yeah, like, and looking at it through that sort of historical lens helps me appreciate how crazy, Walt's idea was for Disneyland, or the idea for a hotel, and like all of the skeptics. And I would always say, like, oh, I wouldn't be on the skeptical side. I would have been on Walt's side. But then I think about stuff like this and I'm like, would I? Or would I think he's crazy too? Like, it's fascinating.
That is fascinating. All right. Well, this was a fascinating episode. I absolutely loved it. Thanks everyone for watching. Let us know your favorite part of this in the comments. And with that being said, I think it's time for us to sign off.
Keep consuming, keep creating. See you next time.